right, so you want to get into PRS shooting or long range shooting. What do you need? Money, lots of money. All right, for real. So today we'll be talking about all the gear that you need to shoot PRS or NRL or any type of these matches. We will divide the gear that we have in 3 categories: the essential, the highly recommended, and the nice to have. The most important takeaway of this video though is if you're missing pieces of gear here or there, don't hesitate to go out and shoot a local match near you. You'll find people in the sport are really welcoming, they want you to try, and they will give you kit and gear so you can fill in the gap of the things that you're missing. So don't get intimidated by missing gear. So, starting with essentials, you obviously need a rifle and ammo. Starting quickly with ammo, people in this sport often do reloading, which is really good, really highly recommended. It allows you to tailor your bullet for your rifle and get the best consistency and the best results from your rifle. However, if you haven't started in reloading yet, or you don't have the time to do reloading, that's fine. You can shoot factory ammo. Just make sure to select match grade ammo. The difference between the match grade ammo and the standard is really huge, and the results will be really different. Going to the rifle next. So having a factory rifle is fine. A lot of people shoot with factory rifles. The most important thing, you want to make sure your rifle is capable of shooting 1 MOA groups. In the simplest terms, your rifle at 100 yards should be able to group within 1-inch circle. Anything bigger than that, it becomes very hard for you to be consistent in targets. Now, that also should be done with match ammo or reloaded ammo. Standard ammo, if you're having bigger than 1 MOA, it's not really a good way to measure it. If you have not purchased a rifle yet, or looking at maybe building a custom rifle, which is also a nice to have, I would call it, start with a REM 700 footprint action. That means that the action is built with the same base of a Remington 700 rifle, but it's not a Remington 700 rifle. This provides you with the flexibility with all the aftermarket pieces that you can add to it. For example, the trigger, the chassis, or the stock, all this, it gives you that flexibility. For example, this one here is from Pristine Actions in Canada. Good friends of ours. We will make sure to include their email address in the comments section. If you have any questions, you can reach out to them. Going to the barrel, we also highly recommend a barrel with threads, so you can put a muzzle brake, or if you're lucky in Europe or the US, you can put a suppressor. This one here is an APW Raptor muzzle brake. We have it in our store. All these things we will include in a list down below with the links of the products that we either have or we either recommend. Now, with regards to the chassis or the stock, the most important thing is you want to make sure that you're able to run 10-round magazines. If you have a factory chassis or stock that limits you to 5-round magazines or less, it becomes a problem, because most stages in a PRS or an NRL match will be 8 to 12 rounds. So a 5-round magazine is really going to be a problem for you. Nice to have with a chassis or stock is the adjustability of the cheek rest and the length of pull. You should be able to adjust these so you get the most comfortable position. Also, a nice to have would be an M-lock on the outside, so you can put external weights, or if you're able to put internal weights on the inside. And that helps with balancing the rifle, first of all, so you're shooting in the most natural position. Also, with recoil, if you have a little bit of weights on the front with the muzzle brake, that helps with recoil, and it allows you to see your misses, so you shoot better and correct better. Now, going to the fore end of your stock or chassis, there are many ways that you can attach a bipod. There's the Picatinny rail, there's the sling swivels, and the industry standard right now is the Swiss ARCA Rail. The Swiss ARCA Rail is great because it allows you to adjust the position of your attachment, whether it's a bipod or tripod, and it also allows you to add any other accessories that works with ARCA Rail. Now, I just said the industry standard. That's really important. Right now, there will be some standards that everyone uses, for example, REM 700 or ARCA Rail or magazine. All this allows for interchangeability. It allows for accessibility of kit and gear that is out there. And when you're in a match, it allows you to borrow things from your teammates. For example, magazines. If you don't have enough magazines, you have a problem with your magazine. If you're following the same standard, that makes it much easier and you're able to use this kit. So the ARCA Rail is one of those things that everyone is using right now. And when you go to a match, if you have an ARCA Rail, you're able to use attachments from other people. This brings me to the bipod. You really need a bipod. It's essential. You cannot go without a bipod. There are many bipods out there. There are cheap options, but you really don't want to cheap out in a bipod. You want to buy something that's good. This one, for example, here is GroundPod from MDT. It's a very good entry level for bipods. They have other models that are more expensive, and there are other many brands that do bipods. So check what's out there. Again, I highly recommend that when you get a bipod, you get an ARCA Rail attachment for it. Next is magazines. Like I mentioned, you do need at least one 10-round magazine. That's an essential. Having 2 magazines is highly recommended, and one of them being a 12-round is really nice to have. Those are AICS magazines. That's the industry standard right now. Like I said, many brands that make them. MDT, those ones, there's other brands that make them. I went to matches with only one magazine, and because my stock allows for AICS magazines, I was able to take advantage of that industry standard and borrow magazines from friends and not have a problem. Magazine holster is absolutely a nice to have, not essential. You can get away with it, but it's a cool thing to have that makes it much easier when you're shooting. Now we get to the tricky part, the scope. It's one of those things where people don't really understand in the beginning, and then when they have more experience, they get it. We all did this mistake where we put more money into the rifle and less money in the scope, and what you really need is the inverse. You want more money into the scope. People get hooked on the magnification and the tube diameter and front focal plane, and all these things are important to consider. What's more important to consider, though, is the consistency and the accuracy of the tracking of your scope. Think of it as in watches. Rolexes are expensive not because they are the most beautiful, but maybe they are highly accurate and consistent. Now, that's another debate. I don't want to get into it. But for the scope, you want to make sure your turrets are tracking properly, accurately, and consistently. For example, if I'm at 0 and my target is at 8 mils and I dial 8, I want to be sure that I'm at 8, not 7.9. Now, when I go back and dial 5, I want to make sure that I go to 5, not 5.1. And that's what makes a scope expensive. This one here is an Apex, good friends of ours in Canada, designed, manufactured in Japan. We will include the link in the description below. Very good scope so far. I have not had any issues with it. Now, magnification. Like I said, people get hooked on. They want to get as much magnification. They want to get 32 or whatever. What you really need for PRS is anywhere from 3 to 20. You don't really need more than that. If you have it, cool, but don't get hooked into it. Also, a front focal plane scope is highly recommended. Front focal plane scope means that your reticle on the inside of the scope, it has dots which indicate angular distances. What you need is that this reticle increases in size when you're increasing magnification. So it keeps those angular distances consistent. 34 millimeter tube is highly recommended. It's a little bit bigger than the 30 mil and the inch diameter, and it allows more light. Now for the turret corrections, we recommend that you choose a scope with mil corrections or milliradian. There's also MOA as an option, and if you choose MOA, that is also fine. The standard right now is really leaning towards mil, and that's important because when you're talking to people who are shooting the same caliber, you want to be speaking the same language. So if you choose MOA, that's fine, but we highly recommend mils. However, the most important thing is, if you choose one or the other, that you make sure the reticle is in the same correction. For example, some of those scopes will shoot an MOA dial correction, but the reticle is in mils. That's a no, because those are, think about it, they're 2 different languages, and you want to speak only one language when you're shooting, and you're under time, you don't want to be thinking which one I'm choosing. With regards to rings, any rings are good. Just make sure that if you're buying a $2,000 or $3,000 scope, you're not putting $30 rings. Again, we all did this mistake, but you want good rings that will provide good concentricity. For example, you want both rings drilled in the same axe, so you make sure that there's no tension or torquing that's happening on the scope that may damage the scope. Those ones here are the Area 419 match scope rings. They're available on our website. You can go check those out. One more thing you need with your scope is an anti-can device. This one here is a bubble level. There are other options in the market. I would really call this as a highly recommended or even essential, given that the cost of it is not so high. It helps you make sure that you're level when you're shooting, especially when you're shooting PRS or NRL. You're often shooting off barricades and you think you're level, but you're not really level. If you're shooting at a target that's 800 meters away and you have cant in your rifle, that will definitely make you miss. An essential piece of kit that you need is a sandbag. There are a lot of people that like to shoot with maybe 2 or 3 because it provides them with extra stability. For me though, because I do sometimes fly in order to shoot matches, I would like to have only one bag that I can use. It makes things a little easier and lighter when packing. This one here, for example, is Armageddon medium, I believe. What I like about this bag is that there's a spout on the side that allows me to adjust the amount of fill on the inside. Usually they will come overfilled to give you as much sand, and then you adjust it to your preference. When you go shoot matches, see what people shoot, maybe try it out and see what you like. Starting with one bag is essential, and then from there you see what you like. A lot of people will start with a small bag that will fit at the bottom of the rifle or the back of the rifle, but you want something a little bit medium, because when you're shooting PRS matches or NRL, you usually will use this bag to seat your rifle on the front and shoot off it like this. So don't get something that's too small, get something that maybe in the medium size. This brings me to the next item, having a tripod. Those are carbon fiber tripods, very useful when you're shooting. It allows you for height, it allows you for extra stability. When you get a little bit of experience, you'll see how people use them differently. So it's something that I would say really a nice to have, not recommended for now. When you go and shoot and see what people have and what they like, then you can decide what you would want for a tripod. Now the next 2 items that you need are a ballistic calculator and a weather meter or a Kestrel. I would really call these items as essential. The ballistic calculator will allow you to build a trajectory for your projectile so you can know what is the correction for your projectile at desired distances. The good news though, there are many ballistic calculator applications available for your phone. Some of them are free, some of them cost money. The other option is to have one ballistic calculator integrated with your Kestrel or weather meter. Now that becomes a little bit more expensive, so I would start maybe with the options available on the phone, play with them and see what I like, and then I can move on from there. Now the Kestrel or the weather meter allows you to collect the weather data that you need to input in your ballistic calculator to get the solution. So it allows you to collect temperature, humidity, pressure, and wind. You can probably get this information from your weather app, but it's not going to be as accurate as your weather meter in your location. And we all know garbage in, garbage out. If you put in the ballistic calculator wrong information, you will get a wrong solution. So you really want to be as accurate as you can. This one is the Kestrel 5000, is an entry level. It's not one of the expensive ones at like 1,000 or more. I think it's around like $400, and it will only provide you with this data. It's not going to calculate the solution for you. So you would need to use this with a phone app. So we're finally getting to the last 2 items on the list, binoculars or a spotting scope and the rangefinder. Those items are really a nice to have, especially for the rangefinder. Most of the matches, the target distances will be provided. It's cool to have a rangefinder so you can make sure those distances are correct. Mistakes do happen, but it's also an item that you can borrow from one of your teammates. For the spotting scope or the binoculars, it's important because it allows you to locate the targets, and it allows you to have maybe a reading on the wind before you get to the stage and shoot yourself. But it's also an item that you can use from one of your teammates. So maybe hold on to them for now, and then when you have a little bit of experience, you can choose what you like and what you prefer. As you can see, there's a lot of gear that you need in order to shoot PRS or NRL. Again, the most important part is if you put thousands of dollars and you don't go out and shoot, you're not going to get any better. So buying all this kit is not going to make you a better shooter. If you're missing kit, don't hesitate, don't feel intimidated, go shoot out matches, borrow kit from people. That's what's going to make you a better shooter. I hope this was helpful for some of you. Thanks for watching. Until the next time.